A little outside of Savannah, where the river meets the Atlantic Ocean, on Cockspur Island, there is Fort Pulaski. This fort was built in 1827 because of weaknesses in the U.S. Coastal Defense Plan, as learned from our vulnerability in the War of 1812. As a new graduate of West Point, Robert E. Lee was put in charge of designing a series of canals and earthworks that drained the soggy location of the site. The completed two-story structure is in the shape of a hexagon and includes a moat, 2 powder magazines, and a huge parade ground.
Lift them up. Lift, right, lift, right, lift, right, lift, lift, right, lift, right.
Fort Pulaski is one in a series of forts that protected the nation's shores and kept potential invaders, such as the English and Spanish, at bay. It was not until the Civil War, however, that the fort would see action. The waters of the Savannah River held the headquarters of the Confederate defenses protecting Savannah. All vessels trying to come in from the Atlantic and go upriver to the city had to pass this point. Powerful Union forces were never able to capture Savannah by sea because the Confederates' Navy guns held them back. The officers' quarters seem stark by modern standards, but comfortable enough in their day. These quarters were occupied by both Union and Confederate troops during the war. The commanding officer's quarters were a bit more posh, and of course his wife was housed here as well. The enlisted men knew nothing of luxury. Their quarters were pretty bare. They slept in bunks on straw mattresses. Finally, these are the quarters used by Confederate prisoners captured by Union troops during the war.
Let's move them out of here.
In 1864, after having burned Atlanta to the ground, General William T. Sherman began a march south to capture Savannah, a feat the Union Navy was unable to do. He met strong rebel resistance at the Battle of Honey Hill, where a Confederate militia of 1,500 soldiers did battle with 5,500 Union troops. The facility was named Fort Pulaski in honor of Kazimierz Pulaski, a Polish soldier and military commander who fought in the American Revolution under the command of George Washington. Pulaski was noted as a cavalryman and played a large role in training revolutionary troops. The walls of this fort were 11 feet thick, thought to be impenetrable except by only the largest land artillery. The smooth-bore cannon of the time had a range of only around a half-mile, and the nearest land, which was Tybee Island, was much further away than that. It was assumed that the fort would be invincible to enemy attack. Robert E. Lee remarked that one might as well bombard the Rocky Mountains as Fort Pulaski. Hut-shot furnaces were state-of-the-art for defense systems of their day. Soldiers heated cannonballs in specially designed furnaces until they glowed red-hot. They carefully loaded the hot shot into cannons and fired at wooden ships.
The Port of Savannah on both sides here, that's the Port Authority. It's one of the most busiest container ports on the East Coast. Maybe the busiest on the East Coast, like second busiest in the United States. During the Civil War, this was in the Confederacy. In Christmas of 1864, Sherman captured Savannah. The day before, he met with the city fathers outside near Midway, Georgia. Excuse me, actually Richmond Hill, Georgia, and they agreed he would take the city peacefully, and gave the Confederates enough time to get across the river on a pontoon bridge about like where we're standing.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. You have a great day. Enjoy Savannah.
On the morning of April 10th, 1862, Union forces asked for the surrender of the fort to prevent needless loss of life. Colonel Charles H. Olmsted, commander of the Confederate garrison, rejected the offer. Fort Pulaski was prepared for a possible infantry attack. However, it never endured a direct land assault. Using 36 guns, including the new James rifled cannon and Parrott rifles, Union troops began the long, sustained bombardment of Fort Pulaski. The rifle projectiles could be accurately fired farther, 4 to 5 miles, farther than the larger and heavier smooth-bore cannonballs. Within 30 hours, the new rifled cannon had breached one of the fort's corner walls. Shells now passed through the fort dangerously close to the main power magazine. Reluctantly, Colonel Olmsted surrendered the fort. Only 2 soldiers, one Confederate and one Union, were injured in the attack. Olmsted's decision to surrender haunted him for decades. Let's take a trip into the now empty powder magazines, and then say goodbye to Fort Pulaski.